everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am finally getting back at it and doing more Pokemon art. What better reason for me to do more Pokemon art than new Pokemon being announced? That is correct. They have announced a bunch of new Pokemon for the games Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I am very excited. I love the legendaries, they are so cool, and I love the cute Pokemon that they have announced as well. Now, today I'm actually drawing Wooloo, which is a adorable little round sheep Pokemon, as well as Yamper, which is basically a corgi, and of course Corviknight, which is this really cool black steel typed bird. And I love them so much. I think they are awesome and cute, and I really wanted to draw these three in an illustration together because I just thought that one, it would look really cool and also be adorable. So today I am drawing on my iPad Pro using the program Procreate. Now this is basically my go-to digital art program. I love it so much. Thanks to this program and my iPad, I do not need Photoshop to draw digitally, and it is great because I can just grab my iPad and draw wherever I want, and yeah, it turns out really well. Not sponsored, of course. So to start off, I just did a very sort of rough, loose sketch. Now, as you could probably see at the beginning, I used a very thick, very soft, blurry kind of airbrush like brush, and I just did that because I like to sort of get the rough shapes down, and if I use like a small brush to sketch with at first, I kind of just get really distracted and want to put in the details straight away. But I have found that I get better results if I do the very rough sort of outlined like shapes and silhouettes and that kind of thing before I go into details. So that's why I use a really thick brush that is really soft and quite see-through, and yeah, it really helps me to get it done well. After this, I sort of just go through in a few different layers and I just slightly refine it here and there. Now I actually sort of make the opacity really low, and I just like sort of draw over the top and just trying not to get it really neat or anything, just sort of fleshing out the details here and there. And then after that, I will actually go over again and do a slightly more refined sketch. Now I prefer to do it this way because I get the rough shapes and the rough idea first, and then when I have that sort of defined, I will go in with the details and all the cute stuff and all the fancy stuff, and yeah, that's how I sort of go about sketching digitally on my iPad. So after I get the rough sketch finalized and I love how it looks, and I really like the sort of flow of the artwork and the shape and the composition and all of that good stuff, I dim down the opacity again really subtly so that I can just see it. And after that, I go in with the technical pen brush, which is a great sort of line art brush, and I just go through and do the line art. Now, the line art is probably one of my favorite things to do. I love drawing line art digitally. I love it traditionally as well, but I really love to do it digitally because I can just get it really nice and crisp. And my iPad does it pretty well. I'm really happy with the brushes that Procreate has, and it does really good for me. So at the moment, I'm just concentrating here and there on the sort of nice sort of line art look, and I'm trying to concentrate on like thick and thinnesses, the line weight of the art. I really want to add lots of thick bold lines here and there, but as well as a bunch of thin lines as well, just to vary it up a bit. I think that makes it look really good, and I don't know, it just sort of makes it look a little bit more polished and complete. And yeah, I really do like the way the line art turned out in this one. I'm quite happy with it. I really tried my best to make sure each of the Pokemon in this illustration are just make sure they all look nice and refined, and make sure that they all sort of shine in their own way, if that makes sense. So yeah, other ways I sort of refined the line art and made it look better was I would add thicker parts here and there when two lines cross each other. That just gives a little sort of hint at any sort of shading or anything like that, as well as making slightly bolder outlines around things which I want to draw your eye to. Just like Wooloo's feet, for example, I really wanted to sort of draw your eye to the really cute little toes, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So now is the time to go in and color in this illustration, and I had a lot of fun doing this. And as you can see, I actually, before I even went in with the line art, before I even went in with the colors, I sort of drew a little swatch sheet where I just picked colors that I wanted to use and just see how they worked together, and those are the colors that I actually plan to use together on the individual Pokemon. Now with the colouring, I'm trying to experiment a little bit here, because in past drawings I wanted to sort of concentrate on soft shading and gradients and that kind of thing, but this illustration I wanted to try something a little bit different. Not too different that it's like way different to my usual art, just a slightly different shading technique, I guess. Instead of like soft gradients and things like that, which I really do like, I wanted to try and use a lot of texture. So I actually decided to use a water brush, which is one of the brushes in Procreate, and I had to mess around with the settings a little bit because it wasn't working the way I wanted it to, but once I got the settings for that brush down well, I was able to go in and add some really nice sort of textured shading and colouring, and I actually really do like the results. I think it looks cool. It definitely has a little bit more of a painterly feel instead of a digital art feel, and yeah, I love it. Now the Pokemon I'm drawing at the moment is Wooloo, and as I said before, it is an adorable little sheep Pokemon. Now this Pokemon is normally white with like black skin on its face and legs, and grey little pigtail things, but obviously I didn't want to sort of shade with grey on this Pokemon, so I actually used a very sort of very slightly pinkish grey or pinkish purplish grey, and I did this because I just wanted to add as much colour into this illustration as possible. That's the sort of thing I like to do with my illustrations. I love adding heaps of colour and just making everything look nice and bright. And that's also the similar thing that I did with Yamper as well. As you can see on the yellow parts, I actually shaded it with orange, and I just really love the way the art looks when you shade with lots of different colors, because it just makes it look so much more vivid and interesting and bright and colorful, and I just love really colorful art. Now after I sort of got some of the Pokemon like coloured in the way I liked, I actually went into my layers and I sort of just grouped the layers together. So all of the layers that had Wooloo's colouring, I grouped them and I named that Wooloo, and I just did that because a lot of the time I will have no layer management at all, and I'll just have this huge list of layers, which just layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and it's really hard to sort of find a specific layer that you need. So that's why I did it that way, because I wanted to try and experiment a little bit with, organizing my layers and maybe naming them. I think that would actually save a lot of time in the future. But anyways, on to Corviknight, which is a awesome, really cool steel and flying bird type Pokemon, and I love this Pokemon so much. He is so badass, and it's a funny comparison having these two adorable, fluffy, cute little Pokemon in the front and this just evil looking sharp steel bird sort of flying in the background. And the reason I did that because it looks like he's sort of going to attack them, but he definitely is not. This Pokemon, these three Pokemon are sort of traveling companions, I guess, and I feel like this scary, spooky bird would be protecting these cute little fluffy, adorable little creatures, and anyone who hurts them or tries to catch these two cuties is going to suffer the wrath of this protective Burby boy. But yeah, I did something slightly different with Corviknight here because there is a stark difference between the two at the front and the one at the back, and that is that he is obviously a steel type Pokemon and he's sort of badass. And I sort of wanted to emphasize that in the shading here because the two cute Pokemon have really soft, nice shading, and I wanted this Pokemon to have sort of crisp, glossy looking shading to sort of emphasize the steel aspect in this Pokemon. So I actually went in and I did some soft shading just to sort of make it look like it was, you know, part of the illustration and part of the other two. But I went over the top and I did a lot of crisp, sort of like harsh, bright highlights. And I did this with the same pen that I used for the line art. And yeah, I just went in and I did some nice sort of glossy looking nice highlights, and yeah, I really do love the results of them as well. Now, as with Wooloo, I actually did the same thing with Corviknight. I didn't want to shade it with just blacks and greys, so I went in with a sort of bluish purpley color that was very dark, and I love the results. I think it just looks so nice. I don't know, I just really love the look of these three together, and I think it has nice flow and it looks pretty good. Now for the background, I actually wanted to do a slightly simple background because I wanted to emphasize these Pokemon, but I wanted something that would complement it and look nice. So I actually went in with this sort of watery brush that I used to shade, and I did a sort of border around that, and then I filled that in with some blue. After this, I did a little bit of a gradient and added some clouds, so it was a bit of a sort of sky illustration. And yeah, I'm really happy with the background and I think it looks awesome. So here is the final results of this illustration, and I love it so much. I love doing Pokemon art. It's probably one of my favorite things to do, and you know I don't do digital art that much, and I really should do it more because it's just so fun to use and the results always turn out pretty good. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe to get your scribble fix, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!